Hello, my new friends, and thank you for flying Air Panda today, because if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're going to want to learn how to make a panda. So once I've got Adobe Illustrator open, I'm going to go to Create New, and I'm going to make this the size of a typical sheet of computer paper, which is I think it's 11.5 by 8. Whoops. So 8, 11.5. And I'm going to hit create, and I have this in a horizontal or landscape orientation. Portrait is different. And I'm going to hit create. I've got a nice white blank canvas to start with. And I'm actually going to start by building the background first. So I'm going to go over to my rectangle tool. I'm going to turn the stroke off. Double click on that to bring it forward. And hit none. Go back to my fill. And I'm actually going to use a gradient for this. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle the size of my canvas. Boop. And I'm using this for the sky. So the gradient actually isn't the direction I want it to go. The sky does not move horizontally for the most part. I want the darker area up top, not over to the side. So I'm going to go over to my gradient tool. Looks like this. And a line pops up. Now, in order to move this, there's a couple different controls on this. You can move it side to side. That pushes your actual line. You can change how long it is, how long of a transition, or if you hover just so, you want to be near that little block, but just off of it. See how that swooshy arrow pops up? I'm actually going to click and drag to rotate that. Now, no worries if it goes off screen like this. Just come up, click on it, and bring it back down now. And I want this to be a shorter line, so I'm going to click and make it shorter. And I can change how much of a blend it goes towards. Right now, there's a lot of black. And I can also change the color, but we'll get into that. I still need to make this shorter. This is bothering me. There we go. That's better. So in order to change my color, I'm going to double click on the main circles. You can do this through swatches. You can do this through all sorts of ways. Right now, this is in black. We could do CMYK. That is the color mode you use when you're printing stuff, BT dubs. So I could pick, let's do a nice light blue. Ooh, I like that. And that is my sky. Whoops. So I'm going to click off of that. The other thing I'm going to do, this is something I like to do. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it makes my life easier. I'm going to lock this object. Lock selection. We're going to call this layer background. And what that means now is that object won't be moved or changed, no matter what I do. I can do that to a whole layer, but I don't need to right now. I only have one object. And now I don't have to worry about moving my sky every time I try to adjust something. So I'm going to make another rectangle, and this time I'm going to make it a green. And I'm going to, whoops, don't forget to deselect, my friends. Otherwise, it will make your life harder. And do a nice green rectangle for this here grass. Boop. And I want to be fancy, so I'm going to make it into a gradient. If I pull up window, actually I need to go into my gradient tool first. Here's my gradient tool. I can click and drag if I want more than one gradient. So maybe I don't want straight up white. Let's change the color mode. CMYK. Maybe I want more of a yellow. And more yellow. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. More green, though. And maybe I want a much darker green. I can also pick closer colors because I want this to make sense. I don't want it to necessarily jump all around. So I'm just going to make this darker. Push it a little bit desaturated. Don't want it quite that dark. Okay, I think I'm pretty pleased with that. So there is my background. And we're actually going to click off of there. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to save it. So after you do a couple things, I really want you guys to get into the habit of saving your work as you go. That way, if you crash, you won't lose everything. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save As. We're going to title this Panda Cartoon. And save it to my desktop. This is a working file. I want to be able to make changes to it, so it's an AI file. When I'm ready to completely turn it in, I will save it as a JPEG. So we need to start making some more scenery because it's pretty darn boring to just have the grass here. So I'm actually going to come in with another tool. I'm going to come in with my pencil tool. And right now I don't want to fill on that. And I don't want a gradient, so I'm going to change from gradient state to just solid fill state. I'm going to make some mountains in the background. So let's start with a dark gray sort of deal. And I'm going to start over here. And just kind of, remember you can change the setting on some of these tools to smooth it out. I double click on the tool. So right now I have it set to smooth really far because I am not working with a mouse, I'm working with my keyboard. My hand is shaky. So I'm just going to kind of, yeah, like that. And bring it around front. And now when I change it, should have a fill. There we go. And I actually need to change that, so I'm going to change the anchor point real quick just so that comes down all the way. Okay. So I've got my mountain. Maybe I want to make it a little taller. Direct selection button is the white arrow. If you double click on an anchor point, then you can edit it. It looks more like a mountain. And I'm all about the details, so I'm actually going to add a white snow cap to that. Just about here. Right over top. And I just noticed I have a stroke on both of these. I don't want a stroke. So I'm going to click that and turn the stroke off. That way I don't have that weird green border around them. There's my mountain. Now let's do some trees. Again, coming in with my pencil tool, my stroke is turned off. I'm going to turn that off too, just so it's less confusing. And I'm going to come and just boom, 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 boom. And down and around. These are very simplified trees. And there we go. So what I could do if I want to save some time is Command C, Command V, and create a copy of that shape. And make this a little bit lighter, maybe more towards yellow. And kind of offset that. And I can squish it a little bit more. I could even flip it so it's not exactly the same. And I'm going to do that using the reflect function. There we go. That looks a little more natural. And this is almost too close to my grass, so I'm going to push it in a different direction. Yeah, that's too bright. Still too close to my grass, man. I could go in and change the gradient. I really don't feel like doing that, though. We'll go with that. Okay, so I've got my background. I'm going to go ahead and save. And before, I think it needs a little bit more. Before I start adding my panda, I'm going to add a little pond, maybe, a little stream or something for him to drink out of. And if you draw something you don't like, you can always go in, pull that point out, change it. Now my path is still there, it's just not filled in. And if I want another gradient, I can change the colors. Let's do swatches this time. And you can also delete colors too, guys. Once you have it selected, just drag it off. And yeah, we'll do like a light. Whoops, you can also accidentally add them. That's a little too close to green. Let's bounce it more towards blue. I want that a lighter blue. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and select that path I meant to fill. Might have disappeared on me. Looks like it did. So we're going to draw it again. And I actually want to stretch that out. Remember, you have to double click on an anchor point before it will let you edit them. Just making some changes. Make it look a little more organic, more like water. There we go. Cool. Let's change the fill state. Let's change the gradient all over again. This is when swatches are useful, guys. There we go. And I could also change the kind of gradient I have. Let's try something new. So I actually want this to be darker. I want this to be lighter. That's too bright, though. There we go. That kind of looks like reflective water. I'm into it. And before I do anything else, I'm actually going to make a copy of this. Command-C, Command-V. I'm going to send it behind because this doesn't look natural. It looks like it was drawn too much into pattern. And I'm going to send it one step backwards. Arrange. You can right-click or you can go all the way up to Object and Arrange. And I'm going to send backwards. And here's Mr. Strickland. I hope you guys are watching this. I'm not bothering to talk while he's doing this.
All right, there you go. A really good song. I'm gonna listen to this.
So now that we dealt with that, what I did here was I added a little bit of an edge to my pool, a little bit of a shadow. I can't quite get that to switch and match at the same time, but we're not 100% worried about it, okay? So next I'm going to come in and just, I'm really bothered by the fact that this is showing. So I'm going to come in and change it. want it to have a solid state like that. You know what? We're just going to leave it, guys. We're just going to leave it. I want to move on with my life. There is my background so far. And all of this would get clipped off the paper eventually. In fact, I'm going to take the time to erase that because it throws me off. And right now, only that river was selected. So the only thing that got erased was that. There we go. I only do that because it was bothering me. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Cool.